Hey, I'm only gonna say this once, so pay attention. Alright y'all, so I hadn't been on this body of water since March. I'm going to start doing some fishing over here because right now on Lake Fork you have to keep the first 25 you catch. And I've got plenty of fish, and there's a lot of people that I go with that don't want to keep anything that's 8 or 9 inches long, and they'd like to keep some that's a little bigger. So I'm over here checking it out, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start looking in shallower water first, because the shallowest water is easier for me to catch them in versus the deep water. So I'm going to use my side imaging, and I'm going to scan around, and I see fish, and I'm going to use my 2D and my down scan as well. What I'll tell you is that a lot of times the crappie will get out of the brush this time of year, and they will just hold really, really tight to the bottom. And I know that goes against all that you've heard about, you know, crappie always suspending and this and that, and yes, they do. But this time of year and at other times of year, they will hold right on the bottom. I catch them a lot of times. It'll have mud on their bellies. It's normally when it gets really cold, I'll catch them like that. And then if I'm fishing in shallow water like I am today, it makes those fish really hard to see. And like you'll just see little bitty blimps on the bottom right here. Those could be crappie, it could be catfish, could be bass. We don't know exactly until we start fishing for them. But they'll hold really tight to the bottom like that, and they'll just look like little rock. Normally if you get in a little area like this where there's just a little bit of decrease or increase in depth, right as the transition line is what we would call it, that's the break line. That's where the fish will be setting. And if you notice, we came up right in here and we got into this 10 foot of water, and there's a stump right there, and there's a cluster of crappie right there around it. Let's see if I can get you a little closer. There's a little cluster of crappie right around it. You can see some images on the outside edges of the stump, and then also right around the stump as well. So those are the kind of fish that I'm going to stay. Look at here. Here's another. Now this could be a school of gizzard shad because there's so many, but it also could be a school of crappie too. So what we're going to do is I'm going to throw the Livescope over, see if I can't catch a few of these. And let's see, we'll adjust the depth on this thing. We're going to get it down. Let's see, we're in 10.5 feet. So we'll go down to the bottom being 11. I like to keep my forward range at about 30 feet. Got 6-pound line on the little rod here. One of my favorite color jigs. So the water temperature is only 60 degrees, so it's not very cold. 60 and a half actually. What I like to do when I'm in this shallower water is I like to stay off of the fish first and try to make casts to them. Because it is so shallow, they can get spooked sometimes from the trolling motor, especially when there's no wind like this. So I'm going to try to cast that jig out there and let it go to the bottom. Because like I said, these fish are holding really tight to the bottom. Most of them are on this particular body of water. That's what it looks like. And so I'm going to let it go to the bottom. Tighten my line up a little bit. And I'm just going to reel it a couple times. Let it fall back to the bottom. A couple turns. Let it fall back to the bottom. I'll do that first. And then if that's not working, you know, I'll just hold it, you know, right on top of them. I'll just fish straight down and get on top of the fish and just hold the bait there. With this water temperature being 60, I'm almost thinking that they're going to be chasing a little more, and I'm not going to have to just hold it real still in front of them. But you never know from day to day. Once you think you figure them out, you know, they're just like women. You're wrong. These fish are fattening up for the winter. But it ain't ever going to get winter here, I don't guess. Like I said, I'm going to start out in this shallower water. There's a lot of activity around. This bait may not be big enough. These shad look pretty big. This is just an 1/8 ounce jig that I've got on here. And a little small profile. Oh, where's one? Holly bum. Ooh, look at here what done got it. Look at that. Look at that. You think that fish didn't want that bait? Look at that, how far it is down in there. Look at that. Golly. He busted it. Well, it's a good way to start out, man. Just a few minutes of fishing here. I had to move out from 10 to 12.5 feet to get my first bite. Fish was right out yonder. Let's see if there's another one out there. Just gonna let it go down, just hopping it along, keeping contact with it, just working it slow. Oh golly, there's another one. There's another one. Hey, it's another good one too. Boy, I tell you what. They love that little bait right there, buddy. Hey, get off there. Another nice little keeper. Man, I tell you what, that didn't take long at all. We'll just keep casting around. See if we can't locate a pretty good school of them somewhere. 2 fish in 3 or 4 minutes here. Back-to-back cast. One thing about them, if you don't get right on them sometimes, you're not going to catch them. They just won't go very far to get it. Especially if these water temperatures start getting cooler. I think I'm going to try a different color just because this water is so dingy. Oh, I see something right here close to the boat. Right under us here. Let me see. So one thing about this Livescope technology, you can just pick them and see them just right underneath you. Golly, bum, shoot. Knocked the fire out of that thing and I missed him. Shoot. Caught me counting my change. Dadgummit. Let's see if he'll come back on it. No, you don't want it. I guess it stinks. Trying that old pink and blue now. This is an 1/8 ounce as well. You can see the head's been beat up on it. It's caught a couple of them. I've got 15-pound line on this pole because there's usually a lot of cover around and you have to get them out of it, but this is just open. Oh, I hadn't come out and got it, guys. Look at there. Look at that. Man, when you get in front of one, they really get after it. You see on this Livescope, right there's one holding close to the bottom. Oh, it moved, swimming around, right there. So I can just pitch around with this longer pole. I don't have to cast. Kind of just pitch it out there and get it the distance I need it and let it go down. Kind of just let it fall right down on top of the fish there. Let it go down to it, nice and easy. Remember, always when you pitch that jig out there, or that minnow or whatever you're using, make sure it's the same color as them fish you're trying to catch. That way and what I mean by that, the same brightness. That jig needs to be the same brightness as that fish. And that means you in his neighborhood and you can get him. If it's faint, if the fish is really bright and your jig is real faint, you're not close to them. Sometimes they won't chase after it to get it. So you got to really make sure your cast is accurate. Make sure that bait's right there in front of him, especially when these water temperatures get a little cooler like this. They won't chase it as far. Golly, that one come out there and got it. Man, I tell you what, that's all I had to do. Even though that other little color was one of my most favorite colors there is, I just had to get something on a little bit brighter in this dingier water so that they could find it a little easier. It's brighter and it's also bigger, so it's displacing more water and they can find it a whole lot easier. All I'm doing now is I kind of got in this spot where I first caught one and I'm just sitting here and I can turn this thing. Luckily, we're fortunate the wind's not blowing, so luckily I'm able to just pitch around and stay in one spot without the trolling motor going nuts. And see if I can, just catch more and more fish. Just catch them, the ones that are just hanging around in this particular area. They like this particular spot for some reason. Could be that the bottom's a little harder. Could be it's softer. I don't really know that. All I know is that they like it for some reason, so we're going to catch all we can out of it before we move on somewhere else. That did, golly. Hey, that may be a good one too. Yes, sir. That ain't half bad. Not a bad one, though. We'll take it. Thank you, sir. I'm just going to turn this thing around here in circles. I see another one over here. Let's see if we can get one of them to bite. Looks like there's two of them. Oh, he did. As soon as you get it by him, buddy, he gets it. Golly. Whew. Hey, and that one's bigger than the last one. Heck yeah. They liking that little old bait, aren't they? Man, them some good little keepers right there. Get back in there. As soon as I throw them in there, I see them on this Livescope. They zoom right back down to the bottom. Here's one right here under the boat. Look at here, right here. I mean, it just showed up. Right here. Drop it down. Oh, we got it! Oh, that's crazy. Oh, shoot. Now you see why their head's all beat up on that jig, don't you? There we go. I think that sometimes, I think them crappie are so thin, sometimes you can't see them. And then if you just sit here, you turn that thing, they'll turn sideways a little bit, and then you'll be able to pick them up. All right, I've established there's a few here, so let's move somewhere else and see if we can't find another school somewhere. Need as many spots as we can get.